Pete Hegseth is a dangerous, drunken fool who puts every single American in danger every single day. And throughout his entire second term, Donald Trump hasn't really cared whether Americans are being put in harm's way or whether Americans are losing their lives. Donald Trump is perfectly fine with Pete Hegseth continuing to run the Pentagon as long as he keeps praising him and making Trump look good. But that's not what's happening today, because a new leak from Pete's poorly run Pentagon exposes Donald Trump's war crimes and blows up the biggest lie he has told about his illegal war with Iran. It's driving Donald Trump into a frenzy, but he's not being questioned nearly enough about it because the mainstream media has been acting as a shield for this administration and has been whitewashing the war crimes currently being committed by the United States and the Israeli government. And that's exactly what we saw Jake Tapper doing, along with Senator Chris Murphy, who in this clip somewhat called him out on it, a clip that describes the very war crime that Pete Hegseth just leaked and that exposes Donald Trump.
So new evidence suggests that the U.S. military may have been responsible for a strike on a girls' elementary school in Iran. Iranian officials say at least 168 children and 14 teachers were killed. We have not independently verified those numbers. Trump was asked about it. He said he thinks Iran did it. What do you know as a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee? And if it was the U.S., do you think there should be accountability? And do you trust Secretary Hegseth to bring about that accountability?
I think it is likely the United States that carried out this attack on this school. I think it's unforgivable under any circumstances, but the fact that this was one of our first targeting decisions, that this mistake was made on the first day of war, I think speaks to the incompetence of our leadership at the Department of Defense. There's also some reporting in the last 48 hours that we hit a desalinization plant. That may be an intentional strike. If we're hitting girls' schools by mistake and trying to separate the ability of the Iranian people to get clean water, that's a war ultimately that's going to give rise to a broader Shia militancy against the United States. It was our attacks on civilians, some intentional, some unintentional, inside Afghanistan that ended up giving rise to giving a second chance to the Taliban.
Do you think the strike against the girls' school is a war crime?
Well, I think if it's a mistake, it's very different than an intentional strike. So there are undoubtedly mistakes that are made in war. I trust that this was a mistake, but the fact that it was a mistake made on the first day, I just think speaks to the fact that we don't have serious people right now making decisions at the White House.
I wanted to start with this clip, not only because it has obviously been a topic of discussion, a conversation that Donald Trump does not want to have, but also because we will get to this disgusting, reprehensible attack on a girls' school, all while the right claims they are liberating the women of Iran. But Jake Tapper says, oh, well, we don't really know that and we're not sure. Would you like to apologize? Do we even have to? Jake, 175 little girls were killed while going to school. And you think the question is whether we should apologize? No. People need to be held accountable. But that is much of what we have seen from Jake Tapper. Much of what we have seen from CNN trying to excuse and whitewash the actions of the Israeli government, the crimes they are committing, and the criminal that Benjamin Netanyahu is. That is what they have been trying to do. And in doing so, they serve this administration. That's why it was shocking that Donald Trump was finally asked a real question about this attack involving this Tomahawk cruise missile. An answer in which he ultimately gave the game away, something that will later be exposed as a lie through a leak from the Pentagon, which we will see shortly.
President, you just suggested that Iran somehow got its hands on a Tomahawk and bombed its own elementary school on the first day of the war. But you're the only person in your government saying this. Even your defense secretary wouldn't say that when he was asked, standing over your shoulder on your plane on Saturday. Why are you the only person saying this?
Because I just don't know enough about it. I think it's something that I was told is under investigation. But Tomahawks are used by others, as you know. Numerous other nations have Tomahawks. They buy them from us. But I will certainly, whatever the report shows, I'm willing to live with that report.
This is exactly how these questions need to be asked. Point out directly that Donald Trump lied. Point out that Pete Hegseth didn't even want to back him up, that he was too cowardly to say what he knew to be the truth. And Donald Trump gives the game away. He says, well, I don't know. I just made it up. I don't know. So I just guessed. I don't know. I just said things. And of course, that's what Donald Trump has done his entire life. But that's why the mainstream media needs to pressure this administration and not believe anything they say. Why would you trust Donald Trump when he says he didn't strike a girls' elementary school? Oh, well, he's the president. I don't care. Do your job. Be a journalist. Or if you don't want to investigate the story yourself, wait for Pete Hegseth to leak it, which is exactly what he just did. The United States is responsible for the attack on a school in Iran. A preliminary investigation says outdated targeting data may have led to an accidental missile strike. According to an ongoing military investigation that undermines Donald Trump's claim that Iran might be responsible, the United States carried out a deadly Tomahawk missile strike on an Iranian elementary school. According to U.S. officials and others familiar with the preliminary findings, the February 28 strike on the school building was the result of a targeting error, allegedly by the U.S. military, which was carrying out attacks on a nearby Iranian base that the school building had previously belonged to. The preliminary investigation found that officers at U.S. Central Command prepared the target coordinates for the strike using outdated data provided by the Defense Intelligence Agency. People briefed on the investigation said officials emphasized that the findings are preliminary and that there are still important unanswered questions about why the outdated information was not double-checked. Bombing a school full of children will certainly go down in history as one of the most devastating single military mistakes in recent decades. Iranian officials have said the death toll was at least 175 people, most of them children. Framing this as a mistake, as a data error, feels incredibly dishonest and disgusting to me. Is that supposed to make us feel better, that our military used outdated information when deciding who and where to strike? Is that really supposed to reassure me? So we have a pile of outdated information that we feed into Elon Musk's Grok AI system to decide who we're going to blow up. Does that sound safe? Does that sound like things are being run well? And Pete Hegseth himself, even though this leak came out from under him, did not want to be fully held responsible when he was pressed. Remember, Donald Trump was asked about this attack. He said, well, there's an investigation, but we don't know. But we know it was them. We don't know, but we know it was them.
So new evidence suggests that the U.S. military may have been responsible for a strike on a girls' elementary school in Iran.
Well, it
Iranian
looks like
officials
it was us.
say at least 168 children and 14 teachers were killed. We have not independently verified those numbers.
They're the bad
Trump
guys?
was asked about it. He said he thinks
that not a question
Iran
they've considered?
did it.
Maybe you're the bad people.
What do you know
Pete
as a member of the
Hegseth
Senate
even
Foreign
had to
Relations
say it
Committee?
himself.
And if
He
it was
said,
the U.S.,
we're the good guys
do
in
you
this
think
fight.
there should be
We're the good
accountability?
guys.
And do you trust
We're the
Secretary
tough
Hegseth
warfighters.
to bring about that
I
accountability?
don't think the good guys
I think
usually have to
it is
say
likely
that they're
the United
good guys.
States
Pete Hegseth
that
has
carried
been
out
doing a lot
this
of explaining lately. There's a
attack on
clip
this
of
school.
him, and
I think it's
want to talk more
unforgivable
about his scandals, his
under
new
any
makeup scandal, and
circumstances,
of course
but
the
the
crab
fact
scandal
that
we need
this
to
was
discuss.
one of our first targeting
But I just
decisions,
have to
that
say
this
a few
mistake
things
was
about
made
Pete.
on the first day
Recently,
of war,
he explained
I think
to us
speaks
his
to the
version of why
incompetence
we're in
of our
Iran,
leadership at the Department
something
of
no
Defense.
one has
There's
actually
also
explained.
some reporting in the last
Donald
48
Trump
hours that
declared
we
victory,
hit a desalinization.
but also wanted ground troops. Pete said that last year we struck their nuclear facilities, their ability to build a nuclear bomb, and completely destroyed them. But that's why we had to go back, because we politely asked them not to continue a process we had already stopped, and they said no, so we're doing it again. None of that makes any sense. None of Pete's explanations hold up. What a surprise. None of it makes sense, and they're not even doing a good job selling their story. But what Pete Hegseth has obviously been trying very hard to do is make his appearance look really great. because a new story outlines what Hegseth has actually been focused on over the past week and a half. The Department of Defense barred press photographers from briefings about the Iran war after they published photos of Pete Hegseth that his staff considered unflattering. According to two people familiar with the decision who spoke anonymously for fear of retaliation, Pete Hegseth, while in the middle of a war we didn't need to start, in which Americans have died, hundreds have been wounded, and school children were killed because of a data error, is focused on how cute he looks. That's what he's focused on. His goal is to look charming, to make sure the pretty boy looks nice and handsome. That's his focus. We are being governed by clowns. There's a report this morning that Donald Trump insists all of his cabinet members wear the same shoes, even if they don't fit. They're literally walking around in clown shoes. And what else is Pete Hegseth doing? What other report did we see? It's almost too much. But what else have we seen recently from Pete? Hegseth's Defense Department had to spend money to push forward its current funding. So Pete allegedly approved spending $6.9 million on lobster tails, $2 million on Alaska king crab, $15 million on ribeye steak, $1 million on salmon, nearly $140,000 on donuts, and $124,000 on ice cream machines. What the hell? How do you spend millions of dollars on crab? I know inflation is bad because of Trump and tariffs, but what? I should clarify that this story isn't just another story about abuse at the Pentagon, though it certainly is. It's also because they asked for more money than they can literally spend. So they're just trying to burn through it so they'll get the same amount year after year. And in trying to spend an ungodly amount of money, adding $500 billion more to their budget, Pete Hegseth is blowing it on crab. These are the same people asking for more money to fund a war that costs $2 billion per day. And they say, we need more money. They need more money from us. And some Democrats in the Senate are thinking about voting for it. If you vote to fund Donald Trump's illegal war where Americans are dying for Israel and schoolgirls in Iran are being blown up, please just stop being in politics. Please. The people you're supporting are embarrassing themselves. Just stop. Get out of the game. We don't need you. It's over. I can't stand it. We will hold them accountable every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can click the subscribe button and leave a like on this video. If you stayed until the end, leave a blue heart in the comments. Keep fighting. Don't let them silence you.